Okay, this is an unscheduled thing. I wanted to congratulate myself on getting rid of Theresa May. It took me 2 or 3 attempts over the last 24 hours. Also, we're going to have Greg Hallett. Very good timing, isn't it? It's like God created the timing. Uh, Greg Hallett will be joining us. I know very little about him other than he's punctual. At 12:59, he let me know that he's on Skype. Thanks for the 5x5 calls. Appreciate it. Following Greg Hallett, we're going to have Alan Dronsfield come on. And also, I'm asking for any help. Let's see, President Trump. Hey, there he is, Greg Hallett. Okay. Uh-oh. Greg, are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, good. And I see you have no camera. Oh, no, you do have a camera. Okay, well, good. If you tell me how to split my screen, I can put your face on. But if somebody in my chat room tells me, let's just see. I pushed a button. I can see you on 2 places. And are you familiar with splitting the screen, Greg?
No, well, it just does it automatically for me.
Oh, okay. Well, don't worry about it. Somebody will. I think I might have found it.
Okay, good.
I'm not sure,
Now,
but I'll
now
go to.
I see me really big. What's happened there? I'm magnified.
Okay, well, don't worry about it. Somebody in my chat room. We have the world's fastest and most lethal. Pardon my speech. Most lethal chat room, and somebody in my chat room will let us know. But we got your sound 5x5, and we will work on your face. I think it's really significant, and I'm just waiting because as you adjust yourself, you're recovering making a lot of noise, which is split good.
Can you hear me? How's my sound? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, all right?
Yeah, no, your sound is wonderful. And by the way, we are on split screen. And see, our chat room is so good, I didn't even have to ask them before they arranged that. Your timing is impeccable, Greg, because I've been trying to get rid of Theresa May for a number of months. And I even gave her a deadline. And guess what? She nailed the deadline. So these people, these pompous asses in England who think they're going to continue to destroy the world, their time has come. So enough about me. Everyone in my chat room knows who you are, but for people that
Can they tell me?
Can they tell you who you are? Yes, you're the lost king of England. And so, what's your rebuttal to that remark? That's a collective genius of the chat room.
Well, the lost king, the newly found king.
Okay.
Because the whole world's changed and everything's now run on the fulfillment of predictions and signs and symbols. It's not run on legislature and law and acts, because they're all shown to be phony and bogus in some way. Either the government was bankrupt or the people involved were compromised.
Well, you probably didn't know this, but my wife is a Brit. She's from Camberley, down there in, I think is it Sussex? Nope, that's not right. I forgot what county she's in. Surrey, that's it. Surrey. But anyway, I can't be considered anti-English because I'm married to a Brit, and she's a very nice Brit. But see, there's nice Americans, there's nice Aussies, there's nice Russians, there's nice Greeks, there's nice North Koreans. But we have a couple hundred years of history where a bunch of very evil people have been oppressing the world. So I'll turn it over to you, and you can speak as long as you want. When you need to come up for air, I'll be here.
Okay, so I just made a few notes just so I get some points across, because I tend to go into detail in order to substantiate what I've been saying. So I just made a couple of notes about 5 minutes ago. Brexit was designed to show that the Queen of the United Kingdom is fake, that she is flatline royal. She is not the daughter of King George VI. She might be the house daughter, but she's not the natural biological daughter. Her name is Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Mountbatten, And Mountbatten is the surname reserved for illegitimate royals. So the United Kingdom doesn't have a queen. There is no title Queen of England. And when you look at her royal styles and titles, it is a moot point hearsay, and she is Queen of Nothing, and she is a suffix queen. The title Queen comes at the end, which means that she is a delinquent, which means that she is either illegitimate or bankrupt or both. So Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Mountbatten is illegitimate. Her cousin David Cameron, who was the Prime Minister David Cameron, he was an opioid heroin trafficker in Africa, and he used his terrible record to extort his way to become Prime Minister. Theresa May was embroiled in all sorts of private money-making schemes, hiding behind her double-blind trust. She manufactured the Manchester Arena bombing. She manufactured the London Bridge attack. She manufactured the Westminster Bridge attack. And in all of these attacks, no one died. And often the people working in the SAS were also the protagonists. They would just change their uniform. And there's photos and videos of them changing their uniform. Theresa May was mafia. Her role was to extend Brexit and extend it beyond 2 years so the British people would wake up and realise that the Queen is not the Queen, that Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Mountbatten is not King George VI's daughter, and she has no sovereign capabilities to claim the United Kingdom out of the European Union. That's what it's about. Because the British are quite patriotic, but in every country, people are stupid to their own country, and it's called patriotism. It's the blind side of patriotism. So the Brits have been blind to the fact that Elizabeth is illegitimate, not the Queen. Therefore, she cannot claim the United Kingdom back from the European Union, and that is why Elizabeth was extorted by the Deutsche Avoidance to sign the UK into the EU on the 1st of January 1973. That was entirely organised, or primarily organised by Prince Philip, who's German, who married Princess Elizabeth on the basis of extortion because Elizabeth is illegitimate, and Prince Philip, who he had 2 suits and £20, he was a penniless prince, and he went in with his uncle, Lord Mountbatten, who was also an extortionist, and they went and saw King George VI and his wife, who was actually Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon's maid, and said, "You are Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon's maid, you are not Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, and you are the biological mother of Princess Elizabeth, who was sired by King Edward VII's illegitimate son, Winston Churchill." And King George VI said, "Yes, we know that. What did you have in mind?" And Lord Mountbatten said, "My penniless nephew, Prince Philip, will marry your daughter, Princess Elizabeth, and maintain the secret." And they said, "Fine." And then the painting that had codified elements of this was in Broadlands, which was the manor that Lord Mountbatten purchased way back in the 50s, and that had a painting in it done by Queen Victoria's Governess of the Children, which had, or all world children, which had the secrets in it of the true royal family. So Lord Mountbatten shipped that painting to the National Gallery of Australia, where it was hidden and then discovered by us. So Walt Disney, who was Illuminati, he knew about this. So in 1953, he made the movie Peter Pan, which showed the two raccoons, who are the two raconteurs and racketeers, which is Lord Mountbatten and Prince Philip. And Peter Pan was commissioned by Queen Victoria, Queen of England from 1837 to 1901, based on her firstborn son, which is her only legitimate child, being sent to Portugal. So there's a true royal family from 1834, and then there's a fake British royal family that we're living in now for 200 years from 1812 to 2012, and then it's breaking apart and being exposed, causing the tribulations. And during the tribulations, which is strictly a 7-year period, sometime between 2010 and 2020. So we're right in it now, and everything's happening now. And yeah, wait, I might get another point. I might get another listed point in before I break into side stories. Yeah, Coco Chanel lived with the Duke of Westminster for 19 years, and they lived 200 meters from where Princess Elizabeth was purportedly born at 17 Bruton Street, or Brutton Street. It's B-R-U-T-O-N, but it's actually pronounced Brutton Street. But because Elizabeth Bowes Lyons' maid was the one giving the birth, and number 17 Brutton Street was owned by Elizabeth Bowes Lyons' parents, not the maid, they refused to allow Princess Elizabeth to be born at number 17 Brutton Street. So they gave birth to Princess Elizabeth at number 5 Brutton Street, above the Coach and Horses pub, which was occupied by a homosexual KGB spy, Anthony Blunt, who was then 17, and he was actually the illegitimate son of King George V. So Queen Elizabeth II was born above the pub at number 5. Coco Chanel found out about this and named her perfume number 5, not number 17. And then Fabergé Brut found out about this, Fabergé found out about this and named their men's perfume Brut, and an ad called Get Your Brut On, and Brut 33 saying that Bruton was Illuminati knowledge, that Elizabeth was born above the Coach and Horses pub at number 5 Brutton Street. So for another point here, maybe. Likewise, Prince Charles is the Duke of Cornwall, Prince Chuck. He's the son of an illegitimate fake royal. And the whole British royal family is known as Flatlie Royal, which means fake. And the British aristocracy are sick to the teeth of them. Yeah, those are my points. So that's my kickoff. So Phil McConnell, come at me.
Okay, I'm here. Can you see me?
No, your camera's not on.
Oh no, my camera.
Party of people in a circle.
Anyway, don't worry about it. My camera is on, and we're recording, and we're getting lots of comments. And before I go gerrymandering down the trail, can you come on sometime next week? Because people are clamoring for you to come back.
Already?
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay.
No, they appreciate your fluency and your knowledge of the subject matter, and you share. I mean, it's obvious to me that you share our feelings as a chat room that the United States of America has not had a legitimate leader since before George H.W. Bush, and it probably was a long time before that. But the United States and the United Kingdom should be preeminent nations, but I think your nation, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think the nation of the United Kingdom has been marginalized by poor leadership. And, for one example, your military signed a 45-year agreement with France that the United Kingdom's military preparedness would be controlled by France. Why don't you just put a whore in charge of a convent? But
that's kind of what they did. It's kind of the whores dressed up as nuns and sex slaves dressed up as nuns. But there's also something called Arc-Manche, which is that France owns the southeast coast of England and polices it, and England owns the northwest coast of France and polices it. It's called Arc-Manche. So the Elizabeth II bridge that went over the Thames, or still does go over the Thames, it was actually given to France and France then sold it to China. So China actually owns the main bridge over the River Thames, you know, the one with the most traffic.
So you,
I mean, strategically, it's all sabotage, and then Britain ensured that it was reliant for its winter gas to keep people warm and alive on Russia. So in November, if Russia threatens to turn the gas off to the UK, it can ask for whatever it wants, and the UK would give it to Russia. It's actually the opposite. Everything's the opposite of what you think, and it's been going on for a while. It's pretty much been going on since the UN and accelerated by the EU. What the UN was a whole lot of bisexual people and homosexuals and pedophiles sitting around in a circle on each other's knees with their hand up the other person's anus, while with the other hand they pass their country's secrets forward and backwards. It was all about giving each other's country's secrets away so everyone knew what everyone was up to. And it was done through homosexuals, lesbians, pedophiles, bisexuals, murderers, drug dealers, heroin traffickers, in suits called diplomats.
well, we're hanging on your every word, and you're not disappointing yet. And I don't want to permanently change the subject off the royals, which we all agree are a bunch of useless bastards. But
Actually, can we go back to that? Because I just got one of your listeners has just Skyped me and give me a message. He said, tell them about your name on the UK coins.
Okay, go ahead.
So what happened was King George VI, he was the king from 1936 to 1952, and then Elizabeth II is the queen, so-called, from 1952-53 on. Now, they had a doctor who was a New Zealander called Lord Arthur S.B. Porritt, and he came third in the 1924 100-metre sprint race, which was called Chariots of Fire, and it's enshrined in the movie Chariots of Fire. Now, he came out to New Zealand to become the Governor-General of New Zealand, and he had some sheep. My father was the champion shearer, so he got my father to shear his sheep. And then we went round to his place in the Kaipara to have cold meat sandwiches on a Sunday and sit down and relax and chat. And he said, why don't you take your son down to see King George VI's son in Rotorua? So we go down there, and it's the 10th of July 1967. I'm 5 3/4 years old. And I end up having an audience with my father and him and King George VI's son, and my father leaves, and I'm there having a private audience with King George VI's son, who's George Fitzratama. At the same time, they changed the New Zealand currency from British pounds and pence to New Zealand dollars and cents. But they retained the crown. There's a coin called the crown. That was retained in New Zealand and still usable from 1967 to 1971, and in some places till 1973, when they started to change the royal styles and titles. And they codified the royal styles and titles of Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea and Grenada to name Greg, born on the 15th of September 1961, which is me, as the King of New Zealand. And then in 1968, the Rothschilds, the Royal Mint, the Bank of England, the Central Bank, and Queen Elizabeth II put my name on the British coins, first on the 5p coin from the 23rd of April 1968, and lastly it went on the £2 coin on the 15th of June 1998. And they are 11,011 days apart. And the codification for 11 is the letter M. So it read 11,011 read M0M, which is mum. Right? So Elizabeth was trying to give birth to me or claim my lineage in reverse, or she was trying to install me on the royal lineage. Yeah? And then what else did she do? On the 19th of March 2017, she had someone who was born pretty much on Coronation Day, which is 2nd of June 1953, to go into the National Gallery, which is opposite Charing Cross, where the King is announced, and go into room 34, which is one above Illuminati, and with a drill bit, scratch the painting, the Gainsborough painting, Elizabeth Maris Hallett. And she used a drill bit, which is DR, doctor, ill bit, doctored by Elizabeth. Right? And the painting's called Elizabeth Maris Hallett. So that means that Elizabeth has done her utmost to give birth to me as mum with the coins, and by the time I turned 56, there were 56 billion coins with my name on it. They read Elizabeth to Greg Hallett Ibis, and with the letters jumbled up, obviously. But they read Elizabeth II, which is 2, and then DG, which is Duke Governor, and I own the royal mark of the Prince Regent Duke Governor, and then the Reg, which is King and Register, and the DG Reg is Greg, and then HALET is in Elizabeth, and the letters left over is Ibis, which is IBEZ, but the American saying 3 strikes and you're out, and the E becomes an I, and the Z in a revision mirror is an S, it spells Ibis, and the tradition receipt is the King is delivered by the Ibis. There's another lightweight saying the agent changes in your pockets, and the Bible saying render unto Caesar's that which is Caesar's. So if my name's on the coin with Ibis on it, that means I'm a designated king. King is delivered by the Ibis. So there's been a lot of these codifications on coins, royal styles and titles, and in the Tower of London as well. There's a lot of codes. There's codes on the Rosicrucian cosmography. There's codes. I'm actually named in the Rosicrucian cosmography, and Rosicrucian was actually the first religion of America with the, white religion from like the 1600s, and they built the Rosicrucian temple in about 1670, and it was the first stone temple or church in America, and after that came Christian. And Rosicrucian is basically a blend of Christian and Egyptian trinities, both trinities combined. And then my ancestor was actually given the princeship, the Prince Regent Duke Governor status of North America, and his name is Sir Walter Raleigh. Over to you.
Over to me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, everyone's really enjoying you. And enjoying, it's not a matter of personality, but personality, of course, is part of it. But it's a matter of your total recall of this false history that surrounds people in power in the US and the UK, and therefore probably other parts of the former British Empire, like France, which was not part of the British Empire, but they've got a guy that I call Macaroni Man, who's he married his teacher. How lovely. Why didn't he just marry his mommy? Same difference. And then we got the bastard in Canada whose father is Fidel.
Yeah.
And these guys are just like Obama was. They're totally useless idiots, but they are very useful for the people who used to control what was supposed to become the New World Order. And I'm not as well educated as some, but I believe that the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and the other people that wanted to manage and destroy humanity, yeah, I believe that they're all abject failures. And, I'm happy to say that I think we're living in a time where not only the future is going to be set right, but the past is going to be revealed. And a lot of my information comes from people around the world that, for whatever reason, really appreciate what used to be called the Abel Danger Show. But that Abel Danger never really existed. But there's some powerful people in the world, Theresa May being one of them. And I'll just give, I'm not trying to brag about Abel Danger. I'm just trying to let you know how I enter into all this horse shit. One day, about, I'd say 3 years ago or 4, Theresa May was, it could have been more recent because she may have already become the prime minister. But she was asked by a journalist in a live interview, lately, Theresa, we've seen your name linked to cucumbers. Are you familiar with that?
No, I actually heard it. Someone told me about it about an hour ago.
Oh, good. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, when I heard that Theresa May said, yes, I'm aware of that, but I don't know where it comes from, I immediately emailed her and I said, Theresa, it came from me. My name's Field McConnell and my wife is from Camberley, and I inadvertently spelled your name wrong with no H. And there is a porn queen in Camberley named Theresa May with no H. She's very attractive, for for heterosexual men, of which there's about 7 left in the United States, and I'm hoping there's 2 or more in the United Kingdom. But as these perverts that were trying to destroy the world, one of the ways they wanted to destroy the world is by trickery and thievery. But another way is, they wanted to take all of the normal natural males, and they wanted to give them all sorts of products that would turn them into a bunch of sissy girls. And at the same time, they had a bunch of politicians from around the world. My wife just walked in, by the way, Greg. And can you see her?
No, I can't see anything. I can see me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, anyway, if you hear a British accent, it's my wife.
Right, the Surrey accent.
Yeah, but Surrey, that's right. I can't pronounce Surrey correctly, but enough about the real Theresa May, the Camberley porn star. I thought it was funny that some journalists asked the question of Theresa May, and I thought it was rather poor politics to claim you don't know where it came from. You're supposed to be in charge of a nuclear force of missiles up there in the north of England or Scotland, and I think she should have said, yes, I know exactly who started that. In which case, I still would have emailed her, because it seems like God himself wants me to make powerful people feel like they're being ridiculed, which they certainly are with Cucumber Girl, and I'll take credit for that. It may be the only thing I ever accomplish, but let's get back to you and how you see the future of the United Kingdom going forward. And is there any chance that with continued exposure, such as you've already delivered in this radio show, is there any chance that the UK government can, in the future, be concerned about UK people and stop playing footsie with the globalists?
Well, it's interesting because the Queen's royal styles and titles show that she's not actually the Queen, and she's not the Queen. She's the Suffolk's Queen. She's not the Queen of anything. She's not the Queen of the land, and she's not the Queen of the people. She's the Queen of dolphins and swans. And there's no title Queen of England. And when a royal styles and titles are written up, it's in an inset paragraph with the first line inset with speech marks, which means it's a quote within a quote within a quote, which means it's a moot point hearsay, which means it's a moot point that Elizabeth is Queen or not, because she's not controlling it and she's not running it. She doesn't have the responsibility. She is just a pawn because she's illegitimate, and it's controlled actually by Rothschilds, who have bred in with the British royal family for 200 years exactly. So in the Rothschild Archive Trust, which I think is somewhere around the British Museum or maybe in it, It's called RAT, Rothschild Archive Trust is called RAT. The founder of the Rothschild banking system was he was known to be psychic. He's known to have dreams and visions. So that's Mayer Amschel Rothschild. And there's debate that he had Mars named after him. Now, he had a dream in 1773 that the Rothschilds bred in with the British royal family and took over the royal family for 200 years. And that actually became a pact. And that pact was to last for 200 years from the time he died. And he died on the 19th of September 1812. And then in 1870, the Rothschilds purchased a tune and named it the 1812 Overture to the founder of the Rothschild dynasty. You know the one, big drums, boom, 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 boom. Huge, huge song. It's in the movie V for Vendetta. Yeah. So, in answer to your question, what's going to happen in the future is really about unraveling the past and who's legitimate and who is illegitimate. And if we've got an illegitimate royal family signing documents known to be fraudulent, then they will be fraudulent by the writer and fraudulent by the signature with fraudulent goals. And that is happened, exemplified all around the planet in all of the colonies. Just massive corruption, so much so that the people that were colonized have said, we're going to get you back, and we're going to do that by immigrating into the United Kingdom and going on social welfare and having 9 kids and breeding the white British people out of existence. So the British royal family's been fake for 6 generations. There's 23 illegitimacies on the main trunk line from Queen Victoria down to the present, at least, not counting the recently borns. So there's only 1 or 2 legitimate people on that line, like George VI was actually the son of George V. George V was not the son of Edward VII. Edward VII was not the son of Prince Albert. William and Harry were not the sons of Prince Charles. Prince Charles was the son of Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth is not the daughter of King George VI. There's only 2 legitimates there. That's King George V and Prince Charles, who isn't even a king. And Prince Charles was actually conceived and born as part of the extortion racketeering pact between Lord Mountbatten, his nephew Prince Philip, and Princess Elizabeth, King George VI, and his wife Elizabeth Ballantyne's maid. And Prince Charles was conceived and born as a child sex slave for Lord Mountbatten, which was carried out, and reporters and historians noted that Prince Charles and Lord Mountbatten had an unnaturally close relationship. And there's photos of Prince Charles sitting on, when he's 4, sitting on Lord Mountbatten's lap with about 10 other of the royal family sitting around. And Lord Mountbatten's got this big long erection right next to Prince Charles' hand. So the whole family knew about it. The whole family knew that Lord Mountbatten was sodomizing Prince Charles. Over to you.
Yeah,
I can get into royal heroin trafficking next.
Yeah, well, no, I think I speak for everyone when everyone in the chat room, which is quite a lot of people who are capable of understanding the gravity of what you're talking about, as well as the depravity of what you're talking about. Remind me, I think I know, and I'm not an attorney. I don't like attorneys. I never met a good attorney. I've never met an honest politician in the United States, but I might meet one in 2 weeks down in Texas. That remains to be seen. But am I correct in thinking that at some point Lord Mountbatten became a liability to the lie? In other words, the lie they were trying to keep under a bushel basket. At some point, did Lord Mountbatten become a liability, and did he die by an explosion on a watercraft?
Yeah, he did. He did. Actually, I was the last person to brief the IRA, and I briefed them on this in May 2016 in Southern Ireland, but they're actually Northern Irish that I was briefing. So what happened was I was named the Holy Grail in the movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It was my name that was carved on the wall with 777 showing that I would be in charge of the ship. And my name, Gregory Hallett, is an anagram of Holy Grail. And then in 1979, in The Life of Brian, the character Brian or Jesus was named Greg, the Son of Man, or Greg, the chosen one, right? So what happened is, from when I was born in 1961, Prince Philip's agents were pushing heroin, importing heroin, trafficking heroin wherever I was. So I was born in Warkworth, and they were bringing the heroin in 1961, and then they were bringing the heroin into the little harbour there. And then I moved to Auckland, and then they were bringing the heroin into the Auckland harbour, and then into Tauranga, and they were bringing heroin into the Tauranga harbour. And I actually used to watch them bringing the heroin in, like throwing it on a pallet off the ship, and then sending a boat out and divers and getting the heroin and actually bringing it in. I watched the whole thing and watched where it was taken to. And the house it was taken to is now the Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand, Winston Peters. And I actually put on Facebook a meme with a lot of detail on it, and a photo of Winston Peters challenging the Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand, Winston Peters, to an interview on his heroin trafficking. The heroin was named at me because I've been codified as the King of the United Kingdom a lot in movies, in the Rosicrucian cosmography, on the UK coins, in the Royal Styles and Titles, by meetings with King George VI's secret only son, who actually outranked Queen Elizabeth II. So what happened was a couple of things that were going on. Lord Mountbatten was part of the triumvirate. Prince Philip was in charge of the world heroin trafficking, and the heroin they were trafficking was called the Queen's heroin, and Elizabeth was part of it. And no one could be charged for the Queen's heroin. And they were aiming it at myself, any true royals who weren't acknowledged as such, and anyone who was predicted on this lineage. So Erie Neve was a lover of Margaret Thatcher. Queen Elizabeth II wanted Erie Neve as her lover as well. So that was the reason for the spat between Queen Elizabeth and Margaret Thatcher. Erie Neve was interviewing Lord Mountbatten about the triumvirate, about the heroin trafficking that was coming from Prince Philip. And Lord Mountbatten was quite old. I think he was born in 1900, so he was about 79 years old. And Lord Mountbatten was talking to the MP Erie Neve that Prince Philip and Prince Andrew's father, Lord Porchester, and Prince Edward's father, Lord Plunkett, and himself, Lord Mountbatten, were all part of the triumvirate that was trafficking heroin around the world and using it for target practice on true royals to try and sabotage the dream and pact of Mayor Ansel Rothschild giving the crown and throne of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and all Ireland back to the true royal family after the end of the 200-year pact, which is 2012 on. So Prince Philip found out about Lord Mountbatten revealing the secrets of the triumvirate trafficking the Queen's heroine. So Prince Philip blew up Erin Neve as he was leaving the car park under Parliament. So he's coming up the ramp, and then the bomb goes off, and then blows his legs off, blows Erin Neve's legs off. He's taken to hospital, he's not dead, and they killed him in hospital. That was at the end of March 1979, and then on the 31st of August 1979, Prince Philip blew up the boat with, it's called the Shadow 5, he blew up the boat with Lord Mountbatten in it and killed Lord Mountbatten to stop him revealing the secrets about the heroin trafficking. So Prince Philip is known as the Black Prince, consequently, Black Prince, and he murdered the same person that arranged the marriage between him and extorted the marriage between himself and Princess Elizabeth. So that's the sort of chap Prince Philip is, and he's also Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. For us, the war never ended, which means for the Germans, the war never ended, and that's why Prince Philip got Princess Elizabeth to sign the UK over to the EU when he knew full well that she was not the sovereign and that she was committing treason and could never claim the UK back out of the EU because she is a treasonous, illegitimate, non-princess, non-queen. So the Scottish also knew about this, so they stole the coronation stone from under the coronation chair at 4 a.m. on Christmas Day 1950. Yes. I'm just going to go off screen and get myself a glass of water.
Yes, before you go, you can still hear me. So think about, yeah, you said 4 a.m. on Christmas Day of 1950. The scone stone was taken away. I want you to understand that I'm listening to you and taking notes because I know I'm speaking to someone who is aware of the truth and not afraid to speak it. And my wife is nodding in agreement. You know, she likes what she's hearing, and she's a Brit. So if you get a Brit and a Yank in the same room, you know, we're 4,003 miles from London, and we're agreeing that this is a very pleasant use of not only our time, but our ability to broadcast to the world. And I've already gone out on a limb and suggested that the Queen is going to publicly abdicate at some point here in the next, I've got to do the math, and I'm not good at math, but she's going to abdicate. And I think, in fact, hasn't she already abdicated?
She's abdicated to me 56 billion times.
Okay, what would she have to do to get out of the terrible trouble she's in? Because whether she's legit or not, millions of people in the Middle East and millions of people in Africa have been oppressed, and they've been denied their rightful due by this old bloviating geriatric goose stepper that thinks at one point she was the queen. But what types of, I don't know if she's protected against criminality, but she's certainly an enemy of global humanity. And sometimes people think I have rather grandiose plans. No, I don't. You know, I believe in God, and I believe in common people, and I think God will claim his common people. And part of that claiming means get rid of the fraudulent persons who claim they somehow are in charge of all the UK citizens. And I think she's done well, I'm not sure she's done any worse job than any other fake royal. But it's just like my sister, and I don't expect that you know who my sister is. But
yeah, I do. Don't go into it because it's so tainting. But I know what you're referring to. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm glad you used the word tainted because I've written in numerous different places. I've connected Hillary Clinton with a foul taint. And what I mean by taint is threat to America involving naval treason, T-A-I-N-T. And the naval treason reared its ugly head on 9/11 when some senior Navy people accommodated the attack of 9/11, which did not come from 23 young Muslims. It came from perhaps the Tavistock Institute. It might have come from Lord Timothy Garden. It certainly came from Prince Philip. And on 9/11, say 250 million Americans thought that we had been attacked by some Muslims. And no, we were attacked by some Khazarian Jews, which are fake Jews. And for those people who read the Bible and believe it, it's written about in Revelation 2:9 and Revelation 3:9 that there are people who claim to be Jews that are not Jews, and they're the root of much. I'm saying not all the evil, but the Khazarian Jews, including the Rothschilds, they are behind much of the evil that has oppressed global commoners. I'm 69 years old, and I know you're just a young squirt, but yeah. But actually, I hope you get to be King of England someday. But in the meantime, how do we hold accountable these fakers, or is it beyond humans' ability to hold the fakers like Prince Philip, the Black Prince, and Queen Elizabeth II, which more properly should be Queen Elizabeth the Non, N-O-N.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there actually used to be none such palace, which is, during Henry VIII's time, was a crackingly accurate name. Well, that was a fair bit to add to there. 9/11 was in 2001, which was the 100th anniversary of Queen Victoria's death. And Queen Victoria had one legitimate child, a son called Prince Marquis Manuel, who was actually made King John II of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and All Ireland on the 6th of October 1869. Queen Victoria actually stood down and then wore a very tiny crown after that. And so Queen Victoria had 100 years after her death, 2001, she had one legitimate child, then she had 9 illegitimate children, purportedly with Prince Albert, but he died a virgin, and they were all sired by the London central banker Lionel Nathan Rothschild. And then she had one child, Louise Brown, with John Brown, who was the outside servant man. So she had 191 children, she had 911 children. So 9/11 was in part acknowledging that Queen Victoria had 911 children, or 911 children. And the current people who are most vociferous about shouting that they are Jews are from Kazakhstan, by the Caspian Sea, which merges into Georgia and the bottom of the Caucasus Mountains. And they have only been registered as Jews since 1573. In 1573, they were recorded by the Catholic Church as the Jews. And prior to that, they weren't the Jews. Prior to that, the Jews were Hebrews and people from the Iberian Peninsula, which is a professor's way of saying Portugal and Spain. It's the Iberian Peninsula. And there's actually been about 6 different types of Jews down through the history that we know. There's the Abrahamic Jews, goat herder Jews, Hebrew Jews, more Persian Jews, and then the Mr. Potato Head Jews, which were black people who had bred themselves white through slavery, called Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, where they've got different features from different races. They've got like African lips and Arabic nose and, Mr. Potato Head. And then now we've got the Ashkenazi Jews, and the French Baron Rothschild, Edmund de Rothschild, who fathered Stalin and Chairman Mao, and likely also Ho Chi Minh, which actually is a changed name, Mugen, it's changed to Ho Chi Minh, which means the enlightened world. He actually financed Israel, and he got the Ashkenazi Jews in there by actually buying the land and putting them in there. And that's how the Jews, using the French central bank and the English central bank, actually physically purchased vast tracts of land in Israel. Yeah. How do you?
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, we're all getting an education here, and are you? No, you're not in our chat room right now. Is that correct?
Oh, no, I'm not. It's just too much info for me.
Well,
but you can read out some questions. But interesting thing, so what's happening is while this King of England thing comes up, right? Now, the title, Christ is actually a title. It's a title. Jesus has the title Christ, right?
Yep.
It's not Christ as a surname. So what happens when Jesus dies, Christ goes, the title can be used by other people, and there's various requirements for the title, and one of them, and it's equivalent to Christ is actually a Greek name. Christ, it's a Greek title, yeah.
Okay.
And the English title, the English language title is Messiah,
Okay.
yeah. And the Jewish language title is Mashiach, right? And the Hamashiach, the Hamashiach. The Jewish language title is Mashiach. Ha-Mashiach means the Mashiach. Ha means the. So Hamashiach, Mashiach, Christ Messiah, all the same thing, right? All coming from different religions and all having their own various requirements for it. But one of the British requirements is that the Christ is automatically the King of England. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. Now, in between 100 and 200 AD, the Jews of that era wrote the requirements for Hamashiach, the Christ. Yeah. And then they wrote it in Hebrew, and then they immediately terminated the Hebrew language. So there's no Hebrew language from 200 AD, exactly 200 AD, to 1900, when they reinvented the language. So for 1700 years, there was no Hebrew language. And then it was reinvigorated by scholars from 1880 to 1920, and then they thought, oh yes, a language now. So then in 1921, it was registered as a language again. So it was dead for 1700 years. And the number 17 is the number of Portugal, so it alludes to Portugal. But in the Hebrew predictions of Hamashiach, they give the description of the 7 years leading up to his birth, and then they give the exact time of his birth and the exact day. And because the Hebrew calendar doesn't line up entirely with our calendar, they have different start dates to the year. But the time was basically Rosh Hashanah, at the end of Rosh Hashanah. So the 7 years building up to the life of Hamashiach, which would then be Christ, which would then be King of England, is, what was the first one? It was drought. Yeah? So the US had drought from 1954 to about 57, and then it was starvation, and there was massive starvation in 1957 in China, and then it was nothing, good harvest, average harvest, there were problems, and then it was threat of war, and then rumors of war, and then actual threat of war. And the actual threat of war was the Berlin Wall, going up on the 13th of August 1961, which is actually 33 days before I was born. And I was born at Rosh Hashanah on the exact minute that they predicted. Back in 100 to 200 AD. So that coming out would automatically make me the King of England.
I've got a question for you. If the phony baloney people in Parliament, understood the truth that you've just recorded right here, and they can't, once it comes out of your mouth and into my tape, it's not going to be removed. In other words, the truth will stand. But if you were offered to be the King of England, would you accept? I mean, regardless of whether you are now or not, doesn't matter. But if they had the nerve to admit that your lineage is proper, would you accept that role?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, I'm going to get started on that because the weird stuff that I do, and my wife is back. She went over to turn the heat down so we could hear you better. But I think the English people and the Scottish people and the Welsh people and the North Ireland people and the Irish people, in other words, both of those islands, I think they need to have legitimate leadership going forward because little by little, and I'd say today's radio show so far, we're 57 minutes into this. I think we've already destroyed those pompous anuses that dress up in military uniforms and they can't spell military, and they really can't. They're a bunch of losers. And because so many people that are fake want to be pilots, both of those fake princes, Hewitt's son and Juan Carlos's son, they both became pilots, but they're just like the Middle Eastern princess kids. They're pilots of nothing. Their instructors flew the airplane all the time. They were pretending like they're pilots. These guys, they couldn't get a kite, K-I-T-E. Those ham-fisted jerks from England could not get a kite airborne in a hurricane. They're just fake. And I think that, in 58 minutes here, I think you and I, and it's mostly you, but it's 97% you and 3% the fact that I have the ability to broadcast globally. I think we've really made the path going forward a little dicey for the fake royals. And as far as I'm concerned, the likelihood of legitimate royals is unlikely when you know who the Messiah is. But if people of any nation wish to have legitimate leadership, that's up to them, not up to me. So I think we should start your campaign to be King of England.
Great. I've got a lot of royal marks in support. The true royal sword, true sword of the royal family of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and all Ireland is the sword of the excuse me, it's the sword of the Duke of Saxon Coburg and Gotha, and that was given to me on Leap Day 2012.
Well, isn't that an endorsement?
Oh, it's total, yeah. It means the allegiance of the king or the allegiance of the person who holds the sword, and it was actually given to me by Queen Victoria's great-great-great-great-grandson. And in a lot of ways, I was wondering why the stuff was being given to me, and it was really because I was fulfilling and named on the Rosicrucian cosmography, which is a one-page drawing summation of the Book of Predictions, which is the basis of Rosicrucianism, I believe. One of the basis of the revival of it anyway, from about 1600. And the Book of Predictions was actually written by Jesus. And the person who picked it up was Sir Walter Raleigh, and he could read and write in 6 languages. So he deciphered it and went straight to a cave in Portugal, a seaside cave, and he spent 14 hours there drawing that cave. And that drawing actually became part of the Rosicrucian cosmography. He drew the cliff face and he drew the rock that when you're sitting in the cave you look out on. And then you see the sea, and he drew Noah's Ark sitting on the rock. And I went for a walk in the Algarve, not knowing any of this, and found that cave and decided to live in it for 100 days. And took photos, and it's only now looking at the Rosicrucian cosmography and my photos that I realised that it was the cave that Sir Walter Raleigh had drawn. But it was also the cave that Jesus, who was also known as Jesus, that he stayed in. And it's also the cave that Zeus, being the planet Jupiter, shot its thunderbolts into, and the plasma arcing from the thunderbolts of Jupiter are evidenced in the cave at least 11 times. And that's a perfect sphere, about 2.5 meters across, perfect sphere cut out of absolutely solid bedrock, this far from the edge of a 40-foot cliff face. And there's 2 of those clear, but there's actually 11 of those spheres there. So what I'm suggesting is this cave is the Cave of Origins, which is actually drawn on the Rosicrucian cosmography and went through a lineage of Jupiter, Zeus, Jesus, which is Jesus, to Sir Walter Raleigh, to me. And it marks the person who represents the end times New Age and gives that mark. And the person who represents the end times New Age is automatically the highest representative of Christ, the title Christ, which, for instance, a Templar Grand Master who has achieved Gnosis can use the title Christ, but none of them have. And the Queen Victoria's son, only legitimate son, Prince Marcus Manuel, who she made King John II of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and all Ireland in 1869, he also had the title Christ. And the King Johns of England have to be the Sangreal to use the name John, the Sangreal or Christ. So King John in the 1200s was the Sangreal, the blood royal, and then Prince Marcus Manuel was King John II, and he was the Sangreal, and he had the title Christ. And I've got the title Christ by representing the end times New Age and fulfilling a lot of predictions in the Bible and virtually all the predictions in the Rosicrucian cosmography, which is the book of predictions. And I lived in the cave, and I found the cave, and I wrote the codes. Plus I've got a letter from Queen Victoria saying, assemble and claim it to the throne, with her blood thumbprint on it. So, it's getting there. It's getting there. So yeah, I can fulfill the position of the title Christ and King of England and King of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and all Ireland. Yes, I can. And I think I'm doing it.
Well,
it's been a long process, been a long process.
Is there any, Greg, is there anything I can do to help you?
Well, the information's really complex, when I show it all individually and I show the images, etc., into discussion. And so what I've been doing is nothing. And I was instructed by the Sangreal to do nothing. And if you go to England, you don't have to do, and if you're the king, you don't have to do anything, and it'll just happen. So what's been mulling around in my head is all the detailed thoughts coming into the subconscious one-liners. So I can put the one-liners down and then put that in as my statement. And then people will see my videos and see that everything's backed up in absolute detail, and anyone in a position of authority or basic knowledge can ask me questions. And I'm expecting questions from the secret societies, and I'm expecting questions from the head of the churches and the head of religions, and the head of law, And all I'm getting is cognitive avoidance and passive acquiescence.
That's a mouthful. Yeah, that's a mouthful right there. But I'm seeing in our chat room, and our chat room is basically global, although it has a high percentage of North Americans and British Isles members, but we have people in other countries too. And I'm just talking about our chat room presence. I think uh, a man from New Zealand, which just brought up another thought. You were talking, I want to try to do this in order because you give me so much information I didn't have before. But you were talking about some guy named Peters in New Zealand. Do you recall talking about a Peters in New Zealand?
Oh, the Deputy Prime Minister, Winston Peters.
Well, there's a prime minister in New Zealand who claims to be a woman, but when she's wearing a tight skirt, it looks like she has a Peter. So which is a American slang term for a penis. But she's. Is there any chance that the current prime minister of New Zealand is a transvestite or transgender? Or not that it matters. I'm just curious if that's crossed your plane of consciousness.
No, she's got what appears to be a female with penis and testicles, which would make her an hermaphrodite. And hermaphrodites can actually give birth, not all of them, but some of them can. But I don't actually think that I'm not convinced that she did give birth when she claimed her baby. I'm not sure that it's from her actual birth. But it appears that she was passed around as a child. She was a Mormon, and there's a lot of rumors that her father was a pedophile in the Mormon church, and that she was getting passed around to pedophiles. And so many pedophiles in the New Zealand government that they promoted her to Prime Minister in order to shut her up talking about their pedophilia with her when she was younger. And that includes Helen Clark, the former Prime Minister, who is a lesbian, pedophile, KGB agent, KGB gangbang prostitute, who's married to a known registered homosexual child sex abuser called Peter Davis. And Helen Clark, her agenda is totally continued by Jacinda Ardern, the transgendered hermaphrodite Jacinda Ardern, who is dropping 1080 poison, green pellets of 1080 poison, about this big, all through the forest and killing the entire wildlife in New Zealand. All the deer, all the possums, all the birds, all the native birds, all the fish, just absolutely decimating the New Zealand bush. And that's because China likes no wildlife. And what wildlife they do have in China, when they take over New Zealand, they want to bring their own wildlife and not have anything in New Zealand threatening it. It's also killing horses and dogs and cattle and sheep. And it's just an absolutely mass slaughter. And virtually every day, they've got 10 massive buckets of 1080 poison. These buckets are like 2.5 meters across and 3 meters high, and funnels, full of 1080 poison. They're just flying them in helicopters and just absolutely destroying the native bush. And that means that the shooters don't have anything to shoot, and it's designed to try and get them to leave New Zealand with their guns. And then Jacinda Ardern paid Hillary Clinton $5.5 million on the 7th of May 2018 to organise and run the Christchurch mosque massacre, in which no one was killed and a rubber gun was used, or a dummy gun, an air gun, a replica air gun was used, about 4 of them. And the shooter is an agent, and everything was obviously fake, and there was no blood, and you can see the blood, the fake blood squibs. You can actually see them. You can see the clear line running down to their legs, so when they separated their feet, it would actually pull the zip for the squib to go off. It was all completely fake, utterly, totally fake. No one died. It was a massive charity fraud. There was about $20 million came in for funding. There were Muslims running frauds, being photographed as though they were in hospital, but they weren't even in any of the mosques where the shooting was supposedly happening. None of the supposed dead were actually the ones who were in the mosques. The mosques were actually full of reticulated dummies. Some of the dummies had, for instance, an 8-year-old girl with her head on backwards with a beard. Right? And she was shooting the dummies with an air gun, so it was actually making the cloth move, right? But there was no breaching of the cloth with the bullet, and there was no blood. And the gun noise was entirely fake. I did 3 videos on it, and with Jim Fetzer, Dr. Jim Fetzer, and we just sort of blew that apart. So what's happened is you've got the hermaphrodite Jacinda Ardern, who's a pedophile victim who can extort a lot of the MPs in New Zealand and a lot of the judicial figures in New Zealand for their pedophilia of her, and Jacinda Ardern growing up fisting Helen Clark, the Prime Minister from 1999 to 2008. She loves to get fisted, and she actually gives away government contracts. If a woman will fist, like stick their hand of water up Helen Clark's vagina, right, they will actually get a government contract. And that's actually the symbol, the Soviet symbol of the fist, yeah? That's fisting. It's a lesbian fisting symbol. And these people are feminists, right? And feminism is female pedophilia. That's what it's about. Feminism is female pedophilia. And if you look at all of the doctrines and practices and laws that the feminists have brought in, it all supports pedophilia, and it all supports females' access to underage children. Over to you.
Well, you're not telling me anything new on that. And so let's first talk about pedophiles' access to underage children. My sister, Christine Marcy, she and Hillary Clinton ran the largest U.S. pedophile procurement network, and also the largest global pedophile procurement network. And I reported both of them by name under oath in a courtroom in Wisconsin on the 21st of August of 2014. And I was summarily excused from the jury for putting that on the record. But today it's still on the record, or they've expunged the record. But either way, they're totally screwed. And I want to go back now. Some of the other pedophile players included the former Attorney General Janet Reno, who was very good at slobbering. She could drool very well, and apparently she didn't have any nerve endings in her lips, because she could drool about 1.5 pounds of saliva and not be aware that she looked like a French Mastiff dog with a wet mouth. No offense to France or dogs with wet mouths. But these female pedophiles, they appear to have tried to take over the U.S. military. And I say that based on the fact that in about 1985 or 86, as a member of an Air National Guard unit, which is an Air Force affiliate reserve branch, we were given mandatory training in some bizarre sexual things. And I can remember the little first lieutenant, a female, who, she was a very nice person, but her job was to take a bunch of us radical heterosexual male pilots from a fighter unit and teach us about fisting. You just said fisting. I haven't heard that term since this little lady had to teach us about fisting and rimming. Now, are you familiar with rimming?
Well, no, but I know what it means.
Yeah, I don't want to be familiar with it either. But what in the world does our United States military? Oh, by the way, I've got pretty much total recall. The young lady who was teaching us about fisting and rimming, her name was Carol Schmidt, Schmidt. She was not a party to this. She was an innocent victim. Like so many other people in the military, they're told that they're very important and the unit will prosper as they get enhanced in rank. In other words, she was a first lieutenant. I can picture her as clearly today as I could 35 years ago. And she was just being taken advantage of because the female pedophiles like my sister, like Pat Schrader, like Dianne Feinstein, like Nancy Pelosi, like Hillary Clinton, uh, they just play mind games with normal women. And they think that they can lie to normal women, and those normal women will aspire to have rank. And I'll tell you what, I've published many, many pictures of lesbians who are generals in the US military. Uh, and being, first of all, sexual preference should not be part of the promotion. It should be your skills. If you're a pilot, can you fly without crashing? John McCain, no, he could not. He could not fly without crashing. Neither could his grandfather. But
Really?
whatever your skill is, it's independent of your sexual preference or even your gender. But these perverts trying to destroy my nation and yours. And by the way, are you a UK citizen, or did you grow up as a Brit, or did you grow up somewhere else in the Commonwealth?
I prefer to say that I'm illegal everywhere in the world.
You're illegal everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think that's something to be proud of. You know,
In this day and age, yeah.
yeah, it's
Very
right.
quite statement, really.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of you, and I hope we meet. I hope we meet either in Wales or Texas. We will meet, I'm sure. It's just a matter of when and where.
Yeah.
Wales is taking a leadership role in claiming credit for the removal of Theresa May, and I guess that I'm a big part of that because I've been to Wales with my wife Denise 3 times in the last 16 months. And the second time I went there in May of last year, I claimed that I was on the trail of Christopher Steele, who is the Brit, former MI6 guy, who is most closely associated with all the fake Russian dossier crap that was intended to remove Donald Trump from his rightful position. And so I would like tonight, when Theresa May and her vibrator go to bed, I hope she puts it on so it's really loud so she can drown the sound of my voice breathing down her neck. I don't like people like her, and I don't like fake royals.
Well, what happens in politics is the outgoing prime minister always selects the next prime minister who is worse than them to make themselves look good, right? Even when that person is from the opposition party.
Okay.
So in this case, we had David Cameron, who was a opioid and heroin trafficker in Africa, who spent 6 years as prime minister, was always in your face on TV, ranting and going, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. He never achieved anything in 6 years. And he's always in your face saying he's going to do stuff, and he never did one thing in 6 years. He was absolutely entirely useless. And when he came to an actual problem, which was that the people voted for sovereignty to remove the United Kingdom out of the European Union, so he effectively lost, and he resigned to Theresa May, who was worse than him.
But is there anybody in the United Kingdom that's worse than Theresa May?
Well, I think we might have some other changes happening. There's plenty of fools and buffoons, and like Boris Johnson is a descendant from King George III, and he's a buffoon. He'll start a topic, and he'll be really enthusiastic about that topic, and he'll talk to you for about 2 minutes, and by the end of that 2 minutes, he has completely stated the exact opposite of what he began to talk about.
Well, I can picture, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the picture, but my wife showed me a picture of Boris Johnson leaning forward on a bicycle to pedal going uphill. And most humans, their gluteus maximus is split into two roughly equal sized lobes. And both lobes of his gluteus maximus were clearly in the field of vision. And I think I'm going to ask my chat room right now if anybody can find the picture of Boris Johnson with his gluteus maximus staring in the field of view of a camera in an automobile that's overtaken him going uphill. I would like to use that picture to suggest that Boris Johnson is, in fact, worse than Theresa May. And so we can conclude that he will be elected as opposed to erected. Uh, I like playing with words, and somewhere out there in the cyber world, there is a quote from me that Theresa May's erection resulted in a hung parliament. Uh, because apparently these pompous assholes don't have any rebuttal for satire, humor, or truth. You know, they want to live in a land that only they think that they and their club members control the land. Well, at some point, we, the common people, are going to assert ourselves, and we are going to take. There's a nice picture of my chat room. I'll try to send you the chat room so you can see everything that the chat room has put in here to support you and simultaneously um, humiliate Theresa May. But anyway, are you willing to come back on and do some more of this at some point? I'm not suggesting we're done for today, but at some point we will be done today. And I think that the chat room really does appreciate your fluency and your command of the details.
Hey, good, good. Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah. So what's happened? Like, I'll give you an example of what happened, right? Just how corrupt things are. We'll go with, say, Winston Peters, because he's the Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand, and he is helping to run the Christchurch mosque massacre fraud. No one died, and it's a massive charity fraud, right? Now he was following me around, so he was my neighbour. He was about 400 metres from me, and he became the Member of Parliament for Tauranga in 1979, where I lived. And I watched the heroin being taken up to his place in 1976. And the person staying with him was the mafia boss, who was actually Prince Philip's agent in New Zealand, called Peter Williams, or Peter Eldridge Williams, and in mafia circles he's known as PA. And he was made a Queen's Counsel lawyer in 1985, and then the president of the Law Society in 1987. Well, that might have been both 2 years later, 87 and 89. And Peter Williams was the principal heroin trafficker for Prince Philip in New Zealand and Australia. And he was actually Mr. Asia. And I was the principal target of the heroin. But because I was the sovereign of New Zealand, I was the intelligence confessor. They didn't tell me I was a sovereign, I had to find out. But I was the intelligence confessor. So I was having 4 meetings a week with Internal Affairs and the Security Intelligence Service and the Queen Mother's bodyguard. And I was getting briefed so much so that all of my notes I had to form into books. So I published New Zealand Blackmailer's Guide, which was all the information you needed to blackmail a New Zealand judge or a New Zealand politician, because they're all just so corrupt. So I wrote some other books on New Zealand called The Sex Collectors, which was 3 volumes, about 1,500 pages, 12-point lettering, but A4, so normal sized book they would have made about 2,000 pages. The former second in charge of the Security Intelligence Service, he said, why don't you go around to Peter Williams QC's house and tell him that the heroin trafficker that he represented, called Terry Clark, faked his death in the Parkhurst prison on the Isle of Wight in the UK, and was shipped to Perth in Australia, where he's set up as a second-hand car salesman. So I didn't know that Peter Williams was Prince Philip's agent at the time, and that Prince Philip and Peter Williams had actually arranged for the escape of the heroin trafficker Terry Clark out of Parker's prison on the Isle of Wight to Perth. So I go around to Peter Williams' place, and he says, yeah, Telfin said you were going to come around. So I tell him the story. I tell Peter Williams QC, the mafia boss. I wasn't certain that he was the mafia boss at the time. Peter Williams, Queen's Counsel lawyer, former president of the Law Society, that his client, Terry Clark, faked his death in Parker's prison on the Isle of Wight and was shipped to Perth, where he was set up as a second-hand car salesman. And he said, he looked at me with the lawyer's eyebrows, and said, yes, I have heard that.
Okay, I think I just missed something. Did I miss something, Denise? Okay, good.
Right. So now Peter Williams, the head of Mr. heroin trafficking syndicate, which is heroin trafficking in New Zealand and Australia, looking for the true king, looking for the Holy Grail, and looking for the blood lineage and looking for the predicted lineage. Peter Williams and Winston Peters, so president of the Law Society and the current Deputy Prime Minister, were looking for me. Now, what Winston Peters did is he trafficked heroin with the judiciary, Peter Williams, and he trafficked heroin with the Tavistock Prime Minister, Rob Muldoon. So he went to the kings of New Zealand, who are the barons, like barons of alcohol production and barons of oil, etc., barons of industry. Three of them, he said, look, I want to be, this is Winston Peters, I want to be the King of England. Oh, so I want to be the King of New Zealand because I've trafficked heroin, I've trafficked the Queen's heroin with the government, and I've trafficked the Queen's heroin with the judiciary. And they go, well, you can't be the King of New Zealand, but you can be the kingmaker of New Zealand. So ever since then, Winston Peters has been the kingmaker of New Zealand. So he's got his own political party called New Zealand First. And he has been the broker between the National Party, Labour Party, filling the votes and the seats and the split between the parties. And that's made him the kingmaker ever since for the last 40 years. Over to you.
Okay, well, listen, for our first meeting, and I think that everyone believes me when I say that you and I have never emailed, we've never talked on the phone, we've never cooperated in a joint effort. But I think this was a very good debut. And so after you have time to consider, I'd like you to consider being on, Monday or Thursday of next week, or any time at your leisure, okay? My wife and I can come down here to our little studio and do a radio show with very little notice. And I personally, just speaking for myself, Field McConnell, I feel very blessed to have spent this hour and a half with you. And I would like to help you maybe demonstrate some leadership to the people, the good people of the United Kingdom. And, there's bad people everywhere, there's good people everywhere, but I think the good people of the United Kingdom really need to benefit from some adult leadership, and they haven't seen adult leadership in my lifetime. And by the way, just to engender some fraternity between you and me, 8 years before you were born, and I think I heard you say you were born in 1961, my father led the first 4 nuclear-armed bombers into Brize Norton in 1953, And
Yeah.
so I have a familiar relationship with England starting in 1953 or earlier. I'm a quarter Welsh, a quarter English, excuse me, quarter Scottish, Welsh, and the other two don't matter. But of the Scottish and Welsh, I sort of favor the Welsh people because I've spent a fair amount of time in Wales. I've had 4 visits in the last 2 years. Let me turn to my wife and ask her a question. Which of your birthdays did we celebrate in Clifface, in Crickhowell? Was it in 17? Yeah. 2017? Yeah. My wife's birthday is September 4th, and in 2017, she and I went to Wales, to a place that I thought was one of the most beautiful places I'd ever seen, which is the Glyphace House, Glifffaes, Glyphace House in Crickhowell Palace, Wales. And then we've had 3 visits to Clonglaughlin, which I can't pronounce because I'm not Gaelic. I'm a quarter Welsh, but it doesn't include my vocal uh, box or my larynx or my tongue or my mouth. Uh, there's another part of my anatomy that's totally Welsh, and I think that Theresa May just felt a little nudge from that this morning. And like I said, when she tries to get to sleep tonight, she better have a very serious overspeed condition for her whirring machine, whirring, Whirring, because her beard, Beard, Philip, will probably be out carousing with Lockheed Martin people who like to kill anybody for profit. And I don't think killing for profit should be something for the United Kingdom or the United States to be involved in going forward. Would you argue that with me?
What is stopping England or the UK going forward? Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, her little husband. I mean, not only.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're in double blind trust, right? So they're trying to claim no knowledge of their own investments. And she's basically mafia, or she is mafia. When you take away the double blind trust, she's mafia, and she's used her permission, her position to sabotage the UK, and she manufactured the Westminster Bridge attack, the London Bridge attack, and the Manchester arena bombing. So she's a terrorist. Theresa May is a terrorist, and her role was to delay Brexit to expose the fake queen.
Okay, I just got a phone call. I'm handing off to my wife. Juan. Yeah, I just got a phone call that I'm deferring, but one of the most interesting guests I've ever had on my little Penty radio show just called in, and he may want to ask you something, so I will find that out. But if he does ask you something, it would not be in a combative, adversarial relationship, because not only am I positive in everything I do, because I think the world needs hope, and I think the UK needs leadership. In over here in this side of the Atlantic, we have leaders right now. We've got
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
yeah,
there's none here. There's no leaders in the UK. Absolutely none. Zero. Nothing. Nada.
okay.
Everyone in the UK, all the MPs in the UK, and even the judges are just occupying positions, not doing their jobs, and they're occupying their positions so that no one can occupy those positions and do the job and make them look bad.
Well, I'll make them look bad if you're willing to set an example of how it should be going forward.
Yeah, well, I can expose that. If I had like a group of lawyers, I could expose all the law stuff and how it's fraudulent. And I have actually spoken to notaries, and they go, we know this stuff. We know it all. We know that the royal styles and titles are fake. We know that the British royal family have been frauds for generations, illegitimate for generations. But the reason they don't do anything about it is because they swear 2 oaths to the Queen, and their income is based on pretending the Queen is legitimate.
Well, I think their days are numbered, and I hope that the English people will grow some testicles and force legitimate people into legitimate offices and halls of power, so that the English or the British or the UK government can cause their own people to prosper and their own people to have a sense of pride in the government instead of, it just dawned on me mid-sentence that you're Theresa May, the terrorist from Maidenhead. By the way, I created a figure to take down Theresa May. Now keep in mind, Theresa May's writing is Maidenhead, so I came up with a mythical protagonist, or is that antagonist? Yeah, the antagonist, named Buster Hyman. So I think, my agent, Buster Hyman, has destroyed the Maven of Maidenhead, and I don't know where she's going to find employment going forward as a terrorist, but I would think any of the arms dealers, whether it's, I like Boeing, but they're still a leading arms dealer, Lockheed Martin, there's U.S. arms dealers who probably would love to employ her because they think she has something positive, but I don't think there's anything positive about her. And the little bluebird that just flew into my cranium, her background and Nancy Pelosi's background, they're attached at the Podendas. Nancy Pelosi is the daughter of the Baltimore, Maryland mafia leadership.
Yeah.
And she and Teresa, who are attached at the Podendas, they apparently think that if your dad's a thief, you can be a thief too. Well, sometimes the thieves get stuck with the weapons they intend to employ on others. So I'd like to think that Teresa will never be useful to any other village idiots ever in her life. And I think we should probably agree to meet next week if you're possible, if your time allows. And if it doesn't allow, I'd sure like to talk to you again because I stand dazzled at your powers of recall.
Good. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Either day I can make myself available, Monday or Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I would like to do it on Monday because I'd like to maybe get some points in about President Donald John Trump before he arrives in the UK.
Monday would be perfect because it's a holiday over here.
It's a holiday here too.
What's the name of your holiday?
Not Monday. Bank holiday.
Oh, bank holiday. Okay. Yeah. In our country, it's Memorial Day, where we honor all the victims of the wars that were created by the Nazis, by the Vatican Jesuits, and by the fake royals of England. And so I think if we can come on with a respectful show where we honor the people who died thinking that they were serving their country when they never were. My parents were veterans in World War II. That's how they met. I spent 26 years serving the U.S. military, and I never realized I was serving a bunch of global terrorists who do their business routinely at Windsor Castle and the Vatican.
Yeah. I've got nothing good to say about war. My ancestors were shot for refusing to go into World War I because they'd just come back from Europe, actually studying under Carl Jung in Switzerland and Germany, and they knew that the whole thing was a complete setup. So the New Zealand government actually shot him in the head, executed him.
Yeah.
For standing up for peace,
Well, good. I think we're on the same page there, and so I'll look forward. And if you can't be here with me on Monday, no problem. We'll do it some other time. But I think Monday would be very, very good.
Yes, I've got church bells on Monday going off like you wouldn't believe from about 7 till 9, which is the exact same time that we're doing now. So maybe it might be better 2 hours earlier.
Yeah, well, that's fine. If you'll be here 2 hours earlier, I will accommodate you. And my wife, Denise, and I will look forward to the pleasure of your company on Monday at 1700 your time. Will you just tell me over the weekend?
Yeah, 1700 my time. Yeah, GMT.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Denise? Yeah. Monday? Yeah, we'll do it at 1700 your time, GMT, on Monday. And until then, we wish you well. And we hope you have reason to smile today, and we hope you look forward to Monday as much as we do.
Okay, great.
Okay, goodbye, and I'll see you Monday. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye. Okay, Alan Dransfield, if you wish to call in, we're here. I want to post this again. This was in, I believe this, which I just posted, I believe that was in today's radio show. Yes, it must have been. And I want you to pay particular attention to the fact that I published Theresa May's removal yesterday. And of course, she didn't remove herself until today. And I think removal is a very good term because she reminds me a great deal of a bowel movement. Okay, Alan, whenever you wish, you can call in. And that was, it's not fair of me to compare Greg Hallett to anyone else, but during that whole adventure, I was thinking, well, there's a British guy who really understands the criminality of the crown. So with that in mind, I'm going to go to the chat room and see if anybody has any comments or question. Alan's standing by? Oh, he should call in. Or does he think I'm going to call him?
I've got no idea.
Okay, Alan, you call me or I'll call you and we'll see who's got the fastest finger.
Hello?
Is this the vexatious King of England?
It is indeed. I'm listening to you at this moment in time live, sir.
Well, I hope you have the live stream turned off. Right now you're coming through loud and clear, but if you had live stream on, it would jam us. So it sounds like you're technologically advanced over the last time we've talked. And what would you like to talk about right now, Alan?
I would like to talk a little about what your last guest was saying. It's absolutely fantastic. And obviously about the vexatious situation. Well, so shall I first turn off the live stream?
No, it's not jamming us right now. If it's a problem for you, you should turn it off. It's not affecting us.
No, not a problem at all, sir.
Okay, well, just go. You just talk until you're done talking, and then I'll take over.
Okay. Thank you very much, Phil, for the invitation to come back on. And I've been listening to your previous guest, Greg Hallett. Very interesting character. I've never heard of him before, and obviously we have something in common. He wants to be the King of England, and I am the King of England. I am the vexatious King of England. Not only vexatious King of England, I'm the vexatious King of Scotland also, because over recent months they, being the Information Commissioner's Office, have used this vexatious nonsense in Scotland, which is bad news for people that are wanting information via the Information Commissioner or any other public authority. I will just go back and turn that off because it's ringing in my ears a little.
Oh, hang on, Alan. I'm coming. I was just out. Denise was getting my wardrobe more professional. Did I miss a question or a statement? Go ahead.
No, you didn't. No. I was just saying thank you for. Can you hear me?
Oh, good. We're glad to have you. And I can't believe how unprofessional your government is over there, that every time you communicate with them, you hit a stone wall. And I'll take a look at some of your recent emails. I didn't put the PDFs in the radio show because that's not probably the best way to handle those things. Images are useful because the images speak 1,000 words, but PDFs, we can put a PDF in and people can read it later. But in fact, I can do that after the show too. I can add those, but I had limited time before the show because there's a lot of things going on in my personal life over here. And having said that, there's an issue around the world called the Zimbabwe bond redemption. And if anybody in the Able Danger chat room has any updates of information, I'd appreciate that, because I have someone under my roof at home. He's an Australian who's been staying here for over 3 weeks, anticipating the redemption of the Zimbabwe bonds. And even though many people don't know what that entails, what it hopes to achieve is not only the global financial cabal being kicked in the teeth, but also legitimate, honorable people of all nations. There's roughly 260 countries, some people think. That seems a little high. But anyway, there's no reason why somebody in sub-Saharan Africa should be denied adequate food, shelter, clothing, and clean water. Well, the people like Rockefellers, Rothschilds, your fake royals over there, they're trying to poison and kill all of us off. Well, somebody's going to get killed, but when the odds are 300 families against 7.5 billion people, I sort of favor the odds for the good people. And I know that you feel similarly, that it's long since time for the United States and the United Kingdom to have their governments cleansed. And while Donald Trump is accelerating his draining the swamp, a lot of people are very impatient in the United States. I presume it's the same in England, because in both sides of the Atlantic, we've had very, very poor education. We've had a lot of vaccines and pharmaceuticals, and we've had absolutely horrid leadership, the most horrid of which just left the United States on the 20th of January of 2017. And I think, I don't know who is more useless. I think it's nip and tuck between the person that just resigned today, and she doesn't leave until June 7th, which is a Friday, which just so happens to be a day where I'm going to be doing a special radio show, I think all by myself, and I'm going to be exposing how the state of Wisconsin has tried to destroy me. And actually, I don't get destroyed that easily, but I'm sure going to rip them a new anus, because the legal people in Wisconsin don't have any idea what the laws are. And I'm going to give them about a 2-hour law lesson, and then I'm going to give them, the CEOs of about 12 corporations are going to have 30 days to satisfy my notice and demand. And there's a bank in Wisconsin that's going to have 10 days to satisfy me. And the beauty, by taking all these CEOs on in one action, is they've never played that game before. They always have their attorneys control the argument. Well, not anymore. I don't like being controlled, and I will not be controlled. And so over to you, Alan.
Yeah, that's brilliant news, and it's nice to know that you're still kicking and fighting and giving them hell, Field. It's wonderful. For people, I'll just give a little brief of introduction to myself, because I haven't been on the show for a long time. I'm a 68-year-old Freedom of Information campaigner and a social watchdog. And I claim, and it's absolutely brilliant news, I digress a little, that Theresa May has resigned today. Good riddance to bad rubbish. She's a fraud, she's a cheat, she's a lying scoundrel. Get rid of her. Unfortunately, all those coming in behind her are hit with the same title. It's a terrible situation, but that's the situation we're in. We can't get over it. I've been fighting the Information Commissioner in the UK, who is a Canadian lady called Elizabeth Denham. She's been in place now for 2 years, and she took over from a guy called Christopher Graham, the choir boy, faggot, gay boy. Shouldn't say that, but I've just said it.
No. What you should say is fucking fagger. That's proper English. But then, of course, I have a hard time getting Brits to speak proper English. So, fagger's good enough.
Well, I haven't been on for quite a while, so I forgot the protocol. The situation, the Freedom of Information laws, 2000, were passed by the biggest liar on the face of the planet, Tony Blair, and unfortunately, it's been attacked, it's been eroded by the very people who should be and have been paid to look after it, which is Christopher Graham and more recently Elizabeth Denham. And what they've done, they've taken my case, my name, Alan Dransfield, and the vexatious case, and every time a member of the public wants some information now, these rogue public authorities and the Information Commissioner, 99 times out of 100, uphold the information, the vexatious decision, and it's just not doing what it says on the tin, because the concept of the Freedom of Information Act, passed by Tony Blair, was a brilliant idea. It was brilliant because it gave the general public an opportunity to get information and to take an active role in ensuring money was well spent, quality was achieved, blah da de blah. But after the expenses debacle some 10-12 years ago, they got together and what can we do to hide this information now? And they said, yeah, we've got this Dransfield guy coming up very shortly. We'll find him vexatious, and then from there, it's just gone from strength to strength. Every time someone wants some information from a public authority, they apply the Dransfield vexatious, which is basically, it was designed to hide sensitive information.
I'm with you.
I'm good, man. I'm just getting a little bit of out of sync, and to give the listeners some idea, and if they've got a pen and paper, if you look into case number 2015 in brackets, EWCA CIV 454, that is the Court of Appeal decision on the Dransfield vexatious nonsense. So that has gone right through to the Court of Appeal. And the lady judge in charge, who was named Lady Justice Hardin, who is now a Supreme Court judge, she said, and this is the vexatious legal definition, really. She said, however, for my own part, in the context of freedom of information, I consider that the emphasis should be on the objective standard, and that the starting point is that vexatious primarily involves making a request which has no reasonable foundation for thinking that the information sought would be of the value to the requester or the public or any section of the public. Parliament has chosen and blah, 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 blah. So, for example, some time ago in 2016, I think it was, someone made a request to the Cabinet Office for the Lockerbie bombing information. And so applying the Court of Appeal court president, that what they're saying there, that the Lockerbie bombing is bullshit. No, it's of no value to the requester. It's no value to anybody, and it's not public interest. I'm sure Lockerbie town. I'm sure Lockerbie is a small town in Scotland. They would agree. They would disagree that about this. But I really don't know how we're going to get this changed, because they're still using it, and incredibly, the latest people to use the Dransfield vexatious bullshit are the Cabinet Office. And
maybe what we should do is say that the vexatious supporters outruled the Theresa May supporters once they found out that Theresa May's government was based on terrorism. And so with her gone, maybe a new date, a brighter future. I'm not optimistic, but it's sort of like what's going on in the United States of America. A lot of Americans are impatient. They hear about change and they want it, they demand it. First of all, they don't have the power to demand it, but they think they do. But they think that just by pissing and moaning, they can get all these bad things in America turned around overnight. Well, you can't. The analogy I like, and the analogy that our agent Mad Dog likes, is if you're out there in a 7-foot raft, you can turn it around 360 degrees just by putting your arms in the water and pushing different directions. But if you're in an aircraft carrier that's steaming at 35 knots, it's going to take several miles to turn it around. And that's what's been going on in the United States. Our government and our leadership and the true azimuth and vector of America is being turned around 180 degrees, just like the global financial inversion, which is going to penalize the Rockefellers, those jerks over there from Germany, Hamburg, Germany, Rothschilds. I knew it would come to me. I mean, they have no right to tell anybody what to do. They have a right to peacefully coexist, just like you and I do, Alan. But somebody just put up a picture of an aircraft carrier making a hard turn to port. Thank you very much, NWA. But it's just like a Junkers bomber from World War II cannot turn as ably as an F-16. So we have to remember what's possible, and all of us want the same thing. We want peace, prosperity, food, shelter. We want our children to be safe from the monsters that seem to gather at Parliament and in your various castles over there. And I'm not picking on England. We have the same pedophile monsters in the United States of America, and I know this full well because one of the biggest monsters in America is my own sister, and two of the others that are almost, one of them's deader than a doornail. That's George H.W. Bush, the Nazi gay guy that liked to bone little boys. And then Hillary Clinton was my sister's partner in pedophilia, and when I mentioned that in court, I was excused from court, which is great. I didn't want to be there anyway. And a lot of people in America do not understand what most people in Britain do. At the front of a courtroom, there's a bar, and that's where you leave the sovereignty of whatever nation you thought you were in, and you go into Admiralty Law's court. And that's why I probably will not be in another court ever in the United States of America that has a gold French flag. But enough about me, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And the incredible thing is, this Dransfield vexatious court president, it's being used to hide all sorts of shit, including child sex abuse, paedophilia, serious crimes, fraud, theft of public funds, blah, 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 blah. And incredibly, Theresa May, before she was Prime Minister, she was Home Secretary. And she used the Dransfield vexatious 42 times during her term as Home Secretary. So, it's a very heavy cross for me to bear. And incredibly, this vexatious nonsense has now been exported by the Canadian Elizabeth Benham to several states in the US. There are 5 or 6 states in the US now that are using the vexatious nonsense. Obviously not the Dransfield vexatious court president, but they have introduced vexatious, which is quite worrying. It really is. And earlier on, I started to tell you about the latest use of the Dransfield vexatious nonsense, which is the Cabinet Office authority organisation, and they're called EU small x EU, and they are the oversight authority for ensuring the Brexit takes a normal path through Parliament, which obviously you guys in the States are seeing that's not happening because of the fraudster that's just about to leave on the 7th of June, as you stated earlier. But what people are doing is the general public are putting a request in related to Brexit, and this the Department of European Exit for Brexit, or as I call it, they are using the Dransfield vexatious bullshit to deny people getting the information. For example, some Cornish fishermen asked what's the situation after Brexit, what fish can we catch, what are the net sizes, can we do this, can we do that? No, you can't have this. In line with Dransfield, your request is vexatious, piss off, go away, leave us alone. And they're doing this day in, day out. And incredibly, most, if not all, of Theresa May's government offices have also used this. And also Boris Johnson, who is red hot favourite, while he was the First Minister of the Foreign Office, he used it. The CPS have used it with Julian Assange. And that was one of the documents I sent you earlier. The Department of Justice, the Department of Transport, the Department of Sport, they have all used the Dransfield vexatious bullshit court precedent. And I'm really at a loss to know how to get this overturned. So all I'm trying to do, and that's why I'm on your show this evening, is to expose the current Canadian. I mean, look at the state of Canada, and this bitch that comes in, Elizabeth Denham, she will support any vexatious decision that is made by the whichever government office, whichever public authority. It is absolutely incredible. At this moment in time, there are about 10,000 vexatious decisions on the database of the Information Commissioner, and I claim each and every one of those vexatious decisions, which have been upheld by the Information Commissioner, obviously not all upheld by the current Information Commissioner, Elizabeth Denham, because she's only been there for 2 years, but we'll say that she's responsible for 3,000 or 4,000, and the other psychopath, Christopher Graham, he was responsible for the other 6,000. Each and every vexatious claim is, I maintain, it denies people their civil, their legal, and their human rights. It's mind-boggling. It's reprehensible. The Grenville fire, for example, they have used it. The Windrush migrants, they've used it. The government departments. Everybody's using the Dransfield vexatious. So affectionately, people have termed me, Dransfield is the vexatious King of England. Over to you.
Yeah, well, I think you don't want to fall into the trap of thinking that they're really going to change just because of you. But as long as you don't get tired and give up, it'll be a drip, drip, drip that'll drown them eventually. Because as the United States reverses course, and even though there's people out there even today that have told me via emails, the currency reset's not going to happen. First of all, if you're going to say negative things, even if you believe them to be true, please don't waste my time looking at an email that talks about negative things. I like to deal in positive things, like the United States of America is being healed. Could we be healed faster? Yes. But there's only one God, and that God is directing the healing of the United States of America. And under God, there's only one president. And I think President Donald Trump is doing an excellent job. As of right now today, he's probably 1/3 of the way or halfway to Japan because he had to be out of the nation for what some people call Nasera, some people call Jacera. Those things may or may not ever happen. But the truth is, he had to be out of the continental United States for that to even be possible. And he is out of the continental United States. Now, wouldn't it be wonderful if something very positive occurred while he's over in Japan, or when he's back here before he goes to England? Because if there's really, really good concrete positive news to report out of the United States, it puts pressure on these maggots who are currently abusing the citizens of their own country. And I'm talking about the United Kingdom. Whoever's doing the thinking over there, they don't give a rat's ass about the English people, the Scottish people, the Welsh people, or the Northern Ireland people. All they care about is keeping their boss or bosses happy, which is collectively known as Satan. And as long as you're placing Satan above your people, those types of enemies of God are certain to perish. And we just saw this morning, I think it was, I watched that old milk horse that's been put out to pasture. I've never seen a female walk like a horse, but Theresa May does. And but anyway, she's gone, and then she faked those tears like she really gives a shit about her beautiful country, England. Well, if she did, why would she be trying to destroy her own country? And as far as tears, you old milk horse, what about tears for the Grenfell Tower victims? What about tears for the young ladies up in Telford and other communities who are raped by Muslims? And what about the people in Londonstone who are at risk of being chopped up by knife-wielding Muslims? You know, it's one thing for the American government and the UK government to wish to bring in a bunch of hapless dupes so that the good people in America and the good people in the UK don't take command of their country. But you really fuck that up in America. And if the current supposed government of the UK doesn't wake up soon, there'll be nothing left to govern. You're destroying yourselves when you're trying to destroy us. And my simple message, I am a man of few words, Alan, but I would just say this to Theresa May and the other fakers over there: get fucked. Over to you, Alan.
Yeah, I agree 100% there, Field. And going back to your comments about the crocodile tears, I can see Theresa May now going on before the cameras on the Grenfell fire, and she said something like, "I will leave no stone unturned until I find what is at fault." We're 1 month away from 2 years on the Grenfell fire, and still the interim fire report, which is the most crucial document for any investigation, any inquiry, has not been compiled and released and published, which beggars belief. And so the public inquiry that we have ongoing at this moment in time, and the Metropolitan Police criminal investigation ongoing at this current time, both of them and a host of other inquiries are actually operating in a legal void, because without the interim fire report, you cannot physically possibly come to a conclusion. What happened? Where did the fire originally start? There is much conjecture. I think it was flat 14A on the 4th floor or something like this. But it's conjecture. The interim fire report has not been produced. And I've claimed, and I maintain, and people and the authorities have used the Dransfield vexatious decision to cover this up. The interim fire report has been suppressed. And who has suppressed it? None other than the tears, the lady with the crocodile tears, Cucumber Lady, as you've affectionately called her, Theresa May. The only people available or qualified to release the interim fire report is the London Fire Brigade, and they have not released it. Now, I'll tell you why they have not released it, Field, because if the interim fire report was read in conjunction with the fire risk assessment, which was a live document at the time of the fire, they would clearly see, when I say they, any fair-minded person would see that the fire was indeed foreseeable, and therefore the deaths were foreseeable. So what the hell is taking so long? It's a money spinner. The public inquiry is a sham. It's a scam. The metropolitan plebs, as I call them, their criminal inquiry is a sham. It's a scam. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, I'm just responding to a lady in Iowa who wants to call Denise and I tonight and talk about some donations in property, like 633 acres somewhere in a mountain estate. But there's a lot of people who are very, very much getting behind an international effort to honor veterans. And I think I'm the one who probably had this thought put out to the public first. I'm not the first one to have this thought, but wars such as the Civil War, such as the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the two George H.W. Bush wars in the Middle East, all of these wars are about killing some of the best gene pools in any nation, because when men or women try to get into the military of any nation, they have to pass a physical. And if you're not fairly healthy when you're young, you won't get into the military. So it's my opinion, and I don't think I can be proven wrong. I do think I can be proven right, that these evil creatures that have been trying to destroy the United States of America ever since the Declaration of Independence, which we were never independent, we are now, but our independence was whispered in the ear of the geriatric goose-stepper in England on Friday, the 13th of July of 2018. And the only reason I can remember that date, that President Trump was letting the Queen know that she could take her greasy mitts off America, is because that's the very day that my wife, Denise Irene Clark McConnell, was given her visa to come back and rejoin me in America. And she never should have been separated from me. And there's about a $2.394 billion claim I can file anytime. And people would say, well, you must like money a lot. And nope, absolutely not. Or I already would have filed the claim, but I'm too busy trying to share the truth with people. And as far as proving guilt and hate and malevolence on the Wisconsin government or the UK government or the former US government, and I like to take the span of years between the 30th of March of 1981 and the 20th of January of 2017. During that whole time, George H.W. Bush controlled the United States of America. And during the whole time, he was acquiescing to the commands of the global cabal that wanted to destroy America in the time frame 2018 to 2020. Well, I don't think they're going to get it done. I do think that George H.W. Bush was executed. I certainly know that John McCain was executed. And some people would say, oh, America's really mean. They kill people trying to destroy their country. Well, if we do, it's only mimicking what Germany did in 1943, or was it 44? The man's name was, I always say Himmler. I don't know if that's right. The Desert Fox, whatever his name was. But the German Desert Fox was visited at his country home in Germany, and two senior German army people told this guy, you can either die here at home or you can come with us. We'll be back in 10 minutes and we'll put you in the back of a German army sedan, and we will drive you 10 minutes to the hospital, and you will have the option of taking this cyanide pill on the way to the hospital, or the people at the hospital will kill you. which is very similar to what happened to Princess Diana, I believe. Now, I may be mistaken, but I'm not spreading what I believe to be false truth. I think it is the truth. I'm just not, I always get that German general's name wrong. Somebody will have corrected me by now. Apparently I'm right. Erwin Rommel. I was right. Oh, thank you, Eager. See, I have a hard time remembering Erwin Rommel, but that's exactly what America did to John McCain. He was guilty of either 6 or 7 treasons and seditions, and I think it was a total of 7. And of course, G.H.W. Bush. If we could even count all the treasons he was involved in, I'd probably be dead before I got halfway through the count, and I plan to live another 25 years. George H.W. Bush was the biggest piece of shit that ever called the United States home, and his home is in hell now. And I hope that John McCain and Satan and George H.W. Bush think it was all worth it. It's not. We should all want to improve the lives of everyone that follows us. And just like you want to get the vexatious crap out of the UK, I want to get the physical crap out of the Washington, D.C., which is sovereign territory, not Washington, D.C., just like the Vatican City and the City of London. They're not loyal to the countries they inhabit. And it's way past time for the people of the world to demand legitimate governments of their own people who are for the people. I think that I'm doing a fairly good job of exposing people for President Trump and his 3 other Marines to kill if they have to. And there's going to be some more killings and hangings. And I look forward to hearing for sure that my sister, Christine Marcy, has had the same treatment for treason that George H.W. Bush and John McCain have. And I would say that some of those people over there are pretending to be things they're not in England. They're probably gonna find themselves in hell. And it's only appropriate because they've made life here on earth hell for us. Those people of us that are naive enough to believe in our national leaders in the United States. I live in Wisconsin. The government of Wisconsin does not care about Wisconsin people, and they really don't care about Wisconsin veterans. And therefore, at least one Wisconsin veteran is going to rip them a new anus. Over to you, Alan.
I love the way you say rip a new anus. Yeah, I'm fully supportive on protest, and I hope he just is safe, and I hope he's safe next week when he comes here, because this is the type of place there where the bastards might just try to top him. Going back a little bit, and it's proof that the UK government and the Cucumber Lady and all of them are so bent. I'm a big believer in Julian Assange is a good man, and what he's been trying to do for years is to expose and to highlight the wrongdoings. And the CPS, which is the Crown Prosecution Service, I don't know what the equivalent in field in the States is, but it's someone will tell us, and you will possibly. But someone put in a request for a Freedom of Information request to the CPS for information on Julian Assange, and you've guessed it, yeah, you can't have it in line with Dransfield because you're vexatious. So again, this Dransfield vexatious court president is being used by the highest, the very highest, the Crown Prosecution Service, the Home Office, Boris Johnson, the buffoon in the Foreign Office, all of them. And incredibly, your earlier guest was talking about Queenie Lizzie. I think Queenie Lizzie has got her fingers on the pulse of the Freedom of Information Act and the Information Commissioner's Office. The reason I say that on sound experience is that the Cabinet Office Secretary of State his job, he has got sole responsibility to make any changes at all that he sees fit to the Freedom of Information Act, which I think is wrong, because it's not good for transparency, accountability, and security. And his second job. He is also the a senior aide to the Queen, the Duchy of Lancaster, and so obviously the Queen sees these opportunities to keep up to speed, up to date on what's happening with the freedom of information. To cut a long story short, and for your listeners, what I'm saying is that the Information Commissioner, Elizabeth Denham, is a lying, cheating, thieving scoundrel and a psychopath to boot, and she's been in power for 2 years and since got a royal award in the New Year's Honours list last year. It wasn't a dame, it was something, whatever it was. And they keep using this vexatious nonsense week in, week out, and incredibly also they are responsible for the Data Act as well. And they fucked the Data Act up as well, and they won't allow the data protection to come out. I'll give you an example. I put what is called a subject access request into the Information Commissioner some 6 months ago, and she said you can't have it because your request is basically unfounded. What's that? That's bullshit. What does she mean it's unfounded? Just give me the information. That's all I'm asking. How do you feel?
Yeah, well, at some point, I hope that that they answer you. I don't think they can, because if they ever answer you, that means well, let me ask you a question. How many times have they used the name Dransfield? Is it like 6 or 7 or 6?
Oh, stop. 10,000 times.
Oh, okay. Well, see, now they've got themselves in a box, because if they ever give you the time of day, they're going to have to admit they've had 10,000 abuses to atone for, and I'd like to volunteer to help you shove that up their ass.
Absolutely. This is what I say. I mean, just recently, when I say recently, since this Brexit bullshit has been going on for 3 years, and people have been asking for information, freedom of information, the Cabinet Office and their ministers have been blocking this information hundreds of times on the Dransfield vexatious alone. So that's hundreds of times. I don't know how many of hundreds, but I do know. And people may well say, well, 10,000 is not a lot. I say 10,000 is a bloody mountain. It's a huge amount of vexatious decisions that's been blocked under my name. So people out there that's putting a freedom of information request in, for example, there was a guy 2 or 3 years ago. His daughter she died, being transferred from one hospital to another by ambulance. And allegedly, his daughter should not have been transferred. So he went to speak with the doctors and the nurses, couldn't get the information, and then he put a freedom of information request in, and they said, no, in line with Dransfield, you're vexatious, piss off. And that's what they're doing. They're hiding, they're cheating, and they're withholding information. And they're doing the same thing now on the Data Act. It's incredible, isn't it?
It is incredible. So what can I do to help you, other than all of your emails that you put out to these cretins? Should I just reply all and say that if anybody of them, like Elizabeth Dunham, if it isn't Elizabeth, actually, Dunham could be Ed Dunham. You never know. Because, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Well, you could. I mean, please send her an email, Elizabeth Dunham. Invite her onto the show. tell her that we've got this Dransfield guy who has been the brainchild of 10,000 vexatious decisions by you, by the Information Commissioner, and we would like you to come onto the show at the same time as Dransfield, and as a right to reply, and let's get this settled, because someone is lying. Either Dransfield's a liar or she's a liar.
Yes, I agree. So I will do that. In fact, I think I have 3 emails from you this morning, and I don't know who you sent them to. I mean, I actually looked at them and I saw, it's just I've forgotten. Some people don't understand, and I want Denise to either wiggle her head yes or wiggle her head no. But most of my conscious hours, I'm working on these radio show ads, which I think the radio show ads are extremely useful because an image speaks 1,000 words. And one of the methods to my lack of madness is the fact that I want to bury them with the truth. In other words, if anybody was foolish enough in the United States of America to sue me for libel, you know, my first question would be, well, where did I libel anyone? And they might come up with an isolated place where they think I libeled someone. But I said, have you read every single word I've written, or have you listened to every single word I've spoken in 994 radio shows and 17 books? And the answer, if they answer no, I haven't read your 17 books or listened to all of your 994 radio shows, then I'd say, well, then you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, do you? Over to you, Alan.
No, absolutely correct. And the truth can never be liable. And I claim very simply that they are lying and cheating to hide information. Jimmy Savile, you know that name.
Yes, I do.
Someone put a Freedom of Information request 3-4 years ago. Please provide me with the tapes from the Jimmy Savile interview. To, I think it was, yes it was, it's coming to me now, Surrey Police Authority. Yes, you've guessed it. No, you can't have these police tapes. In line with Dransfield vexatious court authority, your request is deemed vexatious. So any time any member of the public is seeking information, they can't get it. They're being hijacked. And to prevent public information that is sensitive and embarrassing.
You haven't died, have you?
No, I was just waiting for your comments
Okay.
on Jimmy Savile. I mean, he was an evil person.
Hey, I just had a brainstorm. What I will do, when I get
So
home...
I think I've... Go on.
No, after you. After you, your lordship.
No, shoot, Lucy.
Yeah, I think I had a brainstorm.
Yeah, I mean, anything... Okay, tell me your brainstorm, sir.
Yeah, my brainstorm is I think I should send this tape, in other words, this radio show, which is now 2 hours and 28 minutes long, and we'll see if Elizabeth Dunham would like to have the Abel Dager treatment that Theresa May just fell victim to. And what it's called The Truth. And the way I deliver truth is much like a suppository. The only thing is I don't provide any lubricant.
Oh, anything that you can do will be very much appreciated, Phil, and I do thank you for the opportunity to let the world know that I'm still vexatious. And incredibly, when I say I am vexatious King of England, I am also now the vexatious King of Scotland, because Scotland have accepted the Dransfield vexatiousness and bewilderment.
Well, I hope that the vexation Dransfield crap doesn't spread into Wales, because I still believe that we are going to have the financial ability, perhaps I'd like to think by the end of Monday, which is Memorial Day. I've been told that the Wells Fargo banks are on alert to stay open 24 hours a day to process the Zim redemptions. Now, it's academically possible that the Zim redemptions will never occur, only because with God, all things are possible. But I certainly hope uh, that they do occur. And if they're going to occur, I hope they occur quickly because the people of the world, 7.5 billion people, have been raped, murdered. Uh, and when I think about all those children, I don't think there's punishment enough for the people who participated, including Theresa May, who, when she was the Home Secretary, wanted to. I'm going to have my wife correct me, and someone in the chat room can correct me. Do you remember Theresa May wanted to lower the age of consent to a certain number? Do you remember what the number was?
I certainly do. It was 4 years of age. And it wasn't just Theresa May. It was a couple of female Labour ministers also. And I hate to burst your balloon, but the vexatious bullshit has also arrived in Wales.
Well, that's okay because I love Wales, and let me ask Denise. Denise, don't you think Wales is lovely? Yeah, if we have the brand called MVR McConnell Veterans Ranches, which does not refer to me or Denise, it refers to my parents, who set a pretty good example. And I tried to follow their example, and my sister went the other way. My sister was actually a whore for George H.W. Bush, and you can see the use of my sister by the old Nazi gay, pedophile, worthless German twit named George H.W. Bush, who's a pure fabrication. But he used my sister to create the United States Senior Executive Service, which, along with Serco, has tried very hard to destroy America. And I've got 2 words for Serco and the same 2 words for the Senior Executive Service. But being a gentleman and knowing there's ladies in the audience, I would never be so crass as to say, fuck you. Over to you, Alan.
Yeah, just getting back to the introduction of the Dransfield vexatious nonsense, the bullshit, for want of a better word, into Wales. Incredibly, and I'm sure that you and most of your American listeners will not be familiar with what they call, and I'm sure Denise will be familiar and she'll explain it to you. Crown, I think they call it lawn crown or crown lawn bowling. Have you heard of that?
I know what lawn bowling is, but I'm not familiar with crown lawn bowling. So
it's the same thing where they throw what they call a white small ball down on a nice lawn. It's called the jack, and then you have players to get the balls closest to it, and that's the game. It's a lovely game. But 2 or 3 years ago, someone put in a Freedom of Information request to the Welsh Crown Bowls Association asking for some information. I can't remember what it was. Yes, you've guessed it. No, you can't have this information. In line with Dransfield, you're vexatious. So, incredibly, it's used everywhere for crown bowling, paedophilia, police cruelty, people in hospitals cruelty, sex, rock and roll, everything. Dransfield is the vexatious king of England. Okay. Incredible.
Well, do you think we've done enough damage for today, or do you want to continue?
No, sir. No, because it gets to be repetition. I would just say thank you very much, and a big hi to Denise in the background. Say hello from me, and welcome back to the fold. It's lovely to see you back again. And maybe I can give you an update in a month or 2 months, whatever.
Well, you just tell Denise, because she's the one that made me do this. But it's been a pleasure to do it. But Denise does, in fact, have a little bit more time than me. But on the other hand, Denise actually works harder than me. And since she's been back, and I don't remember what day you got back. It was Tuesday last week. You've only been back 10 days. She's already done a month's worth of gardening, and she's done exactly 9 years worth of garage cleaning. And I think it's unfortunately fair to say that in the United States of America, at least, some men think that certain jobs are for women, and those men are sort of not too bright, and they're not respectful of their wives. And even though Denise may not know how much I appreciate her, I've never appreciated anybody in my life as much as I appreciate her to this point, where I'm on the 70 side of 69. And so October 2nd of this year, we'd like to invite a few thousand of our closest friends, to think about joining us for Veterans Day and the Marine Corps birthday at our Texas ranch. And we might have a few people hanging around on my birthday, October 2nd, or on hers, September 4th. And that's all if God blesses us with our collective dream to have a facility to honor, heal, and restore the veterans of every nation, our enemies as well as our allies. I'd like to think of no more squatties coming home in a Mercedes hearse, and I'd like to think of no more U.S. service persons coming home in my 1996 Cadillac hearse. But I would be more than willing to haul dead bankers and attorneys and government officials who tried to commit treason. I'd haul them for free, but I wouldn't haul them to a funeral home. I'd haul them to a dump. And I'm dead serious, because when Obama was in office, the VA was stockpiling corpses and allowing them to be decomposing. And, the thought of a veteran decomposing while Obama is golfing is enough to make me rather unpleasant to be around. So while I'm still in control of my feelings, I'd like to say thank you, Ellen, and we will, in fact, do me a favor, though. When you want to come back, just communicate with Denise, because she's a Brit and she'll understand your typing more than I will.
Okay, lovely to have you back, Denise, and thank you for insisting that the vexatious old fart from Boston, UK, comes back and gives his story. In actual fact, in 3 weeks' time, I will be in Boston, US. I'm coming out there to see my son and my family and my grandchildren who are based out there in Rhode Island. So I was out there last year, and I'm looking forward to having 4 or 5 weeks in Rhode Island. I think it's a lovely place, and the people are so nice and friendly. And I didn't realise that it was the smallest state in the US until last year. It's a fantastic place.
Well, give me the date range you're going to be in that area, because Denise and I are going to Boston next month, we believe. But do you know roughly when you'll be there?
Yeah, I know exactly. I should be there from the 12th of the next month to the last day of July, which is 5 or 6 weeks. I don't know. I mean, my geography, I hate to admit, my geography of the United States is very poor. I don't know where you are in relation to Boston.
Well, we can be there easily, but we have reason to go there that's related to the veterans ranches. But I'll just say this, my command of geography of the UK is excellent, because if I'm not mistaken, your Boston is in Lincolnshire.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and it's where the dear Pilgrim Fathers set sail. And I'm sure I told you before, I was born less than 500 meters away from where the original Pilgrim Fathers. You call them Pilgrim Fathers, you forefathers or something, don't you?
Yep, forefathers.
Where they originally set sail from Boston, Lincolnshire, and they were grassed up by the Dutch captain of the ship, and the monument was raised there in 1957. I know it well because I was a 7-year-old nipper, walking to school every day, passing that monument, and the inscription is on the marble monument, and I can tell you exactly what it says. Near this place in September 1607, those later known as the Pilgrim Fathers set sail to find their religious freedom across the seas. Unfortunately, they didn't, because they were grassed up by the Dutch captain and marched back into Boston, which would be about 5 miles from where I used to live, right out on the riverbank. And then some 10 years later, they were released, or they escaped from Boston, and then they set sail from Plymouth. And as we say, the rest is history.
And you're saying Plymouth, UK? That's down on the southwestern tip.
Absolutely correct. Yeah, not on the very tip, but not far from it. You're quite right, sir, on that bit that juts out on the southwest coast. And that's where I've been living for 25, 26 years, in Devon. It's a lovely part. It really is a lovely part of England. But I'm now back in my hometown, Boston, Lincolnshire, and still taking the fight to the establishment, because this vexatious bullshit, enough is enough. It's got to stop. It's got to be turned over.
Okay, well, I'll do something to help you today. I'll take those 3 emails and I'll attach this radio show to them. I'd like to encourage everyone listening, no matter where you are in the world, if you want to learn the true history of the Pilgrims leaving from Plymouth and or Boston, Lincolnshire, there's a song by Steppenwolf called Monster, and it's about the monsters that were created when the Vatican and the Crown started oppressing people of faith. And I would encourage those people in the United Kingdom and the United States governments who have no faith, well, you better grab your ankles, because here it comes. Alan, thanks for joining us today. And I'll have Denise keep in touch with you so we can do this again. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us, Alan.
Superb, Phil. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to come on and talk to you guys. And Denise, thank you. Thank you for your help. Lovely.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Yep. Cheers.
God bless you. Bye.
God bless you. Okay, you just asked me a question. We're still on, Denise. I have a fighter pilot questions. Do fighter pilots in combat ever fly without their watch, their glasses, and their handgun? Well, they don't have to have glasses like my reading glasses. If they can pass 20/20, they can fly without glasses. And the majority of the fighter pilots would have 20/20 and wouldn't have glasses until they got these cheaters when they get past about 40. As far as their watches, there is a very accurate clock in all the fighter pilot or fighter type aircraft, but there's a cliche in the military that fighter pilots have big watches because they have small something else. And I'll leave the something else, to the imagination, just like Barry Gibb. Was that his name? Yeah, Barry had 3 little brothers, and his 3 little brothers all predeceased him. But Barry Gibb, besides a wonderful voice and a wonderful family of singers, he also had a pretty good sense of humor. And I'll leave it at that as you visualize what the relationship between the Bee Gees and fighter pilots are. So we covered the watches. A lot of them wouldn't wear watches because there's a clock in the airplane. And if you have to escape or eject, having something around your wrist or a ring on, most pilots didn't fly with rings on. And there's 2 ways of thinking. You could rip your ring finger off if you tried to get out of the airplane and you caught your ring on some metal. The weight of your body would just rip your finger off. But more commonly, people would take their rings off because they'd want to pretend like they're a bachelor when they're abroad. How's that? It's the truth, and it's not true of all people. I know a lot of fighter pilots who are really good husbands and fathers, but then there's others that when the cat's away, the cat will play because the mouse is still back at home. What's the rest of that question, Denise? I'm going looking for it right now. Did I answer all 3? Oh, no, handgun. They're compelled by regulation to have a small handgun, like a .38, typically. I don't know what they have now, but if you go down in enemy territory, you might get lucky on taking out a few of the enemy, or if things look grim, you can always take yourself out and deny them the satisfaction. But I don't think God would be happy with that. So anyway, we've taken enough of your time. We'd like to thank everybody for sharing your time with us. For nothing is secret that will not be revealed, nor anything hidden that will not be known and come to light. That's Luke 8:17. So thank you, Agent I for India. And my answer, Field McConnell, would be he wouldn't be without any of them. Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. If you have glasses and a watch and a handgun, you're free to take them all. There's regulations concerning all that horseshit, but I never read the regulations. So I'll just say goodbye. We'll look forward to seeing you Monday. If anything comes up with the Zim and the ranch over the weekend, we'll come on with very little notice and record it. Thank you. And for right now, if somebody would put up Mad Dog update, I'll give you a Mad Dog update while somebody puts up the big red button and the protocol. Mad Dog called me this morning, and he's tracking, that's his choice of words, tracking positive developments, all of which lead, there's the big red button, thank you. All of the positive developments cause him to assure me that the McConnell Veterans Ranch will in fact be funded. And I believe that to be the case. And we will, if that is the case, we will certainly know it very soon. I'm still waiting for the protocol. And keep in mind that the Zim thing very well, if it's ever going to occur, it very well will occur over this weekend because it's a 3-day weekend when President Trump is out of the country. Are you paid opposition? Robin C., if you're serious, you'll never be in this chat room again. Eager Beaver,